Shaping Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, the Shamima Begum case is not going to go away. Let's just remind ourselves what the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, said earlier on this week.
When someone turns their back on the fundamental values and supports terror, they don't have an automatic right to return to the UK.
Well, that all sounded pretty good to me, and I rather agreed with that. But that was at the time when the Home Secretary thought that because, at the age of 3, Shamima Begum had come to this country from Bangladesh, that she had dual citizenship. So the Home Secretary was quite prepared to take away her British passport, knowing that she had a Bangladeshi one. Since then, of course, they've told us that they want nothing to do with her. And since then, the Home Secretary has been really very quiet on this issue. But Jeremy Corbyn today decided he would speak about this, and he described the Javid statement and saying that the passport should be taken away as a very extreme manoeuvre. And Jeremy Corbyn really does think that Shamima Begum should come back to this country, and indeed, he thinks she needs help. Let's listen to him.
She was born in Britain. She has that right to remain in Britain, and obviously there are a lot of questions she has to answer, but also some support that she needs. And Diane Abbott set this out on our behalf yesterday in Parliament. She obviously has, in my view, a right to return to Britain. On that return, she must obviously face a lot of questions about everything she's done, and at that point any action may or may not be taken. But I think the idea of stripping somebody of their citizenship when they were born in Britain is a very extreme manoeuvre. Indeed, I questioned the right of the Home Secretary to have these powers when the original law was brought in by Theresa May when she was Home Secretary.
So she should come back to the country and she needs help. The whole tone from Jeremy Corbyn is almost, let's welcome her back, ask her a few questions, let's give her lots of help, money, I suppose, as well. There's no condemnation from Corbyn whatsoever, and I think there should be, because she has shown no remorse whatsoever. You know, she even talked about that appalling bombing at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester as a fair retaliation. She's clearly completely signed up to the ISIS ideology. And you know something? You can only help people, you can only offer forgiveness if they've actually repented of what they've done. In no way has she done it? And I personally think Corbyn is completely off beam with this. Yes, I know that under international law, you're not supposed to make people stateless. I understand that, although America, as we'll discover in a few minutes, takes a somewhat different view. But honestly, it seems to me, perhaps I'm wrong, but it seems to me the vast majority of people in this country do not want somebody coming back into this country who is still of that ISIS mentality. And of course, just to confuse it slightly more, she has a young son, of course, that was born earlier this week that would also be coming with her. He, by the way, has been named Jerah, named after a 7th century Islamic warlord. Isn't that nice? So tell me, do you agree with Jeremy Corbyn that she should be allowed to come back into this country and given the help that she needs? And if you think, yup, Corbyn is absolutely right, it's morally the thing we should do, call 0345 6060 973, or maybe like me, you think Corbyn is completely out of touch with public opinion and his emphasis on the help that she needs is in fact the wrong way round. What we need her to do is to repent of what she's done. Is that how you feel? Please text to 84850, or maybe, like the Home Secretary, you find yourself in something now of a dilemma over this issue, in which case tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course Facebookers, you can comment there too. The problem is, if she is let back into the UK, then surely she's got to ditch her jihadi Dutch husband, otherwise he would be eligible to join her. Well, that's a very, very good point, Andy in Manchester. If she was let back into the country, it would be very difficult. It would be difficult to stop the Dutch husband coming in, although I think in that situation, you know, the Home Secretary could quite fairly say that he poses a threat to national security. But then again, I think she poses a threat to national security. That's my view. What does Maria in Walthamstow make of Corbyn's statement today? Good evening, Maria.
Hello, hi. Actually,
Hi there.
I agree with Jeremy Corbyn. I think she should be allowed back. Obviously, there would have to be some sort of something put in place, some kind of anti-radicalization policy or something. But she should be put back, because what crime do we have against her? What has she done? Do we have any evidence?
She joined an organisation. She's joined an organisation.
At what age, though? Bear in mind, what was her age?
Well, she's now 19. She's now 19 years old. Is
her marriage even legal? Would we legalise somebody who's married at the age of 15, a school child? No, we would call that rape, or we would call that groomed person.
Well, she was 15 when she made this choice, and the age of criminal responsibility is actually 10 under our law. Now, look, Maria, I would have some sympathy with this if she said, look, I was 15 years old, I've been told some bad things in my community, I'd looked at the internet, I made a mistake, what I've seen is barbarism, what I've seen is atrocity, I completely condemn it, and I want to come back and live in the United Kingdom and become a responsible citizen of the country. Do you know what, Maria, if she said that...
I do agree with you, I totally
But she's
do
not
agree
saying that,
with
Maria.
But then again, I also do know when somebody's young, they're very easy to brainwash. They're very easy to manipulate and brainwash. She was a schoolgirl.
But Maria,
are very vulnerable. We know that. That's a fact.
But she's 19 now.
But she's 19 now. How they work. They give in to the assaulter or whatever, but we're not taking any of that into account. Also, this is her home. This is her home. Why is
she turned her back on this as her home. She went to be part of an organisation that is an enemy of this country, an enemy of all of our values, and now Mr. Corbyn seems to think she needs help. Presumably that means a council house and some money and all the rest of it. And the point I'm making, Maria, is I genuinely believe that Jeremy Corbyn is wildly out of touch with public opinion on this issue.
I disagree with you. The reason why I disagree with you is because if we have a child who's groomed into some kind of sex slave thing, we would see that child as a victim. Even when they reach the age of 19, we would help that person and we would try and bring their brain back in touch with reality. We would want to support that person and treat them as a victim. Now, we know she has the wrong mentality. That's a fact. I'm not arguing with that because I'm a Muslim and I disagree with that, with everything that she's done, everything that ISIS have done. But I'm a grown woman, and I know that because I haven't been brainwashed as a child. I've been brought up by my family to believe Islam is a peaceful religion. We know that's a fact. I'm not easily brainwashed, but I know a small schoolgirl can be brainwashed. Instead of looking at her as a victim and wanting to support her, we're trying to think of ways to kick her out of her own home. I'm really disturbed by the fact that people were able to leave here and join Israel and fight and come back heroes, and yet when somebody leaves to join ISIS, we have this double standard. Yes,
well, not really,
wrong.
not really, Maria, because we've had people go out to the Middle East and fight against ISIS who have faced the weight of law in this country. Maria, you make an impassioned case for a young girl that has been brainwashed, and I thank you for making it. But I'm sorry, she's 19. What if she comes back to this country? What if she comes back and starts to get together with other extremists and plots some atrocity? It's just not worth the risk, in my view. Simon from Harlow is a new caller. Good evening, Simon.
Good evening, Nigel. Hello.
Hello there. So is Corbyn right about this, or am I right that he's out of touch with the way most people feel?
Well, I believe Corbyn's wrong and you're right.
Okay.
Not unusual. Yeah.
Well, that depends on the point of view you take on life, I suppose.
Indeed, yeah.
But, I mean, Corbyn is basically saying, isn't he, that international law means that she's got a British passport, this is her home, and there isn't much we can do about it. That's really what he's saying, Simon, isn't it?
Well, my point and the reason I called is because, if I could use an example, if you committed a crime in America as a British citizen, you wouldn't be taken back to Britain to be tried. You'd be tried in the country where you committed the crime.
Yep.
And I understand Syria is not an ideal situation, but there's still a rule of law. We're concentrating on Shamina Begum, but there's a great number of people in a similar situation. We shouldn't set a precedent. And
it's not just jihadi brides, Simon, is it? I mean, the US at the moment have 900 captured jihadis who come from France, Germany, Belgium, and the United Kingdom. So it's not just her. There's nearly 1,000 people in this position who want to come back to various European countries. Simon, it seems to me, if we don't trust the judiciary in Syria, what we ought to do is convene an international court. And let's hear them in Syria. I agree with that. Would that make sense to you?
It would indeed. And then no one can say they don't have the benefit of justice.
No, Simon, I'm absolutely with you. Are there any circumstances, Simon, in which you think we should allow her to come back to this country?
Well, everyone is considering the baby, which is quite right. But a lot of these women went over there, and the purpose was to create babies. So I imagine there's a great number of women in the same position.
I don't think the number of women is huge. I think, from this country and other countries, we're talking about dozens as opposed to hundreds. I think at one point it was nearly 200 in total had gone over there. But, hey, Simon, thank you very much for your point. Dave from Wimbledon says, here's the key point as I see it. Any form of revocable or conditional citizenship is problematic as factually it establishes an inequality. Some people are more British than others. Using the logic applied in this case, a UK citizen born to British parents has a different status to a UK citizen born to foreign parents. This can't be right. Dave, I do understand what you're saying, but the difference surely here is that when you are a UK citizen and you opt or choose to go and fight for somebody, to be part of an organisation that is an enemy of this country, I think in those circumstances you have forfeited your right. That's my view. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
A teenage boy has been found guilty of the abduction, rape and murder of 6-year-old Alicia McPhail on the Isle of Bute last summer. The mother of a 3-year-old boy believed to have been crushed by a car seat on a journey in South London has been found guilty of child cruelty. Jeremy Corbyn says the Home Secretary's decision to remove the UK citizenship of a teenager from East London who now wants to return home after joining the Islamic State group in Syria is extreme. LBC weather: cloudy, wet and windy across western Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight. Drier elsewhere, a low of 5 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are queues on the M25 anti-clockwise after an accident earlier on before junction 5 for the M26. All the lanes are back open again. Also anti-clockwise on the M25. It's very slow to the Dartford Tunnel. That's because a car's broken down. It means the lane's closed between junction 2 for the A2 and junction 1A for Swanscombe. There are delays in Barnes. The South Circular stays closed both ways between Priest's Bridge and Priory Lane because of an accident. It's very slow in Hounslow. The A4 Great West Road westbound is closed. That's because of an accident from Sutton Lane to Vicarage Farm Road. And on the Tube, a signal failure at Tower Hill means there's no Circle Line anti-clockwise.
This is LBC.
From big business owner to small startups, the LBC Business Hour with BT answers all the questions you may have.
When it comes to selling your startup business, nobody can actually have that passion that you've got for it yourself. For me, that's why the startup failure rate is high, because they don't know how to market and sell themselves.
Join Ian Dale every Thursday evening from 8 for the LBC Business Hour with BT, helping you to be there for the moments that matter in business. And LBC.
Stylish and effortlessly cool, this model is a real head-turner. With 16-inch alloys and a wireless keycard, a new Renault Clio from Renault Retail Group is this season's must-have accessory. And at just £159 a month and £159 deposit on 0% APR finance, the price tag is pretty eye-catching too. Find your nearest dealer at renaultretail.co.uk. Deposit 159, then 48 monthly payments of 159. Final payment 4511.
The biggest recorded marrow weighed 8.5 stone. You'd need a strong wheelbarrow for that. For a bit of veg, it's big. But it's not Euromillions big. This Friday, it's a huge £14 million jackpot. Euromillions, amazing starts here.
Estimated jackpot rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
You're on a roll, and life keeps rolling with you. You're rushing, you're moving, you're grooving, you're running late, you're gymming, you're swimming, you're meditating. And you're walking, you're talking, you're working, not working, and texting. You're simply unstoppable. And unstoppable shouldn't have to stop to enjoy great food. With Uber Eats, you could order food from your favourite restaurants and have it delivered right to your doorstep. Uber Eats. Get food delivered wherever life takes you. Download the app today. Available at selected times in selected locations.
Grammy-nominated Joe Bonamassa, hailed as one of the world's greatest guitar players. Blues rock titan Joe Bonamassa live in concert on Wednesday, April 24th, Thursday, April 25th and Friday, April 26th at the Royal Albert Hall. Tickets on sale now at the venue box office and at royalalberthall.com. Joe Bonamassa. Don't miss your chance to experience the guitar event of the year.
Sometimes it's the little choices we make that have the biggest impact, like choosing fair trade products that can help change lives around the world. And at Co-op, it doesn't cost a lot to make a difference. Pick up a bunch of fair trade roses for only £4, a 250-gram pack of fair trade tomatoes for just £1.50, and a pack of fair trade bananas for only 89p. Participating stores subject to availability.
Do you need an alternative to your bank to secure finance? Well, Finance for Business are the brokers who can help you access it, allowing you to expand your property portfolio, to buy properties in need of refurbishment or development, or downsize and buy the dream home before your old house sells. Broking is the new banking, and Finance for Business are the brokers you can rely on. Search Finance for Business for details. Your home may be at risk and repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on a mortgage or any other loan secured on it.
Most radio adverts begin in a pristine recording studio. But not this one. We're recording on the streets of central London, polluted by toxic air. Because there's no better place to tell you that the Central London ultra-low emission zone is coming on the 8th of April this year. It will apply 24 hours a day, every day of the year, in the same area as the congestion charge zone. Unless your car, motorbike or smaller van meets the new stricter emission standards, you will have to pay the £12.50 daily charge. Search ULEZ to check your vehicle and see if you need to pay. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from New York, only on LBC.
Well, Shamima Begum must come back to the country, says Jeremy Corbyn, and she must be helped. The Home Secretary doesn't want her to come back, but I'm afraid he's not going to take away a British passport because she doesn't have a Bangladeshi one, and this is going to run and run. Fascinatingly, I'm here in New York today. Exactly the same debate is happening here in America because Hoda Mutana, who's 24 years old, was a jihadi bride, and she now wants to come back to America. She's from Alabama. There are some differences, though, because she says that she was manipulated, and she wants to return to America to undergo therapy. She is apologetic for some of the appalling things that she said on Twitter, where she urged people in America, she urged Muslims in America to go out on events like Veterans Day, etc., and commit atrocities. But she has shown some degree of repentance. She said she's prepared to undergo treatment, and yet President Donald Trump tweeted publicly that he'd instructed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo not to let Miss Mutana return to the United States. And I tell you something, she's not coming back to the United States. Even though there's repentance, she's not coming back to the United States. There are no circumstances under which that would happen. And yes, there are some people here saying, well, what about international law? And the response we get from the Trump administration is national security comes first in all circumstances. That is how the Americans are dealing with it. I have to say, I've got more sympathy with how they're handling this than perhaps the way that we are. Gareth from Rugby feels very strongly about this. He says she simply cannot be allowed to come back and live amongst us with her family. There have to be consequences. We must set an example. We can't afford to be soft with these people. Whatever happens with her is a precedent for others. Well, Gareth, actually, it's worse than that, because already over 400 ISIS fighters are living freely in this country and walking the streets as I speak to you now. We have been incredibly soft and I think stupid on this whole issue. Michael in Belfast is a new caller to the show. Good evening, Michael.
Hi Nigel. Hi, how are you?
I am well. So, is Mr. Corbyn right or is he wrong?
Yeah, no, I think he's right. I think we're setting a dangerous precedent, rescinding somebody's citizenship. I think allowing our government to do that, setting a dangerous precedent. And I think also she's a 15-year-old girl.
She's not now, Michael.
Yes, but she was when she left, so she was a 15-year-old girl. And if a 15-year-old girl in this country was married off and became pregnant to a grown man, what would that be considered? Well,
what if she'd been 16, Michael? What if she'd been 16?
but she was 15 when she left. So as we know now, she's had three children. So at some point she must have been pregnant when she was 15. So, you know, she's you know, in this country that would be seen as paedophilia. You know, if you understand what I'm saying.
So you think she's a victim, Michael? Do you?
Yeah, I think she's a victim.
Well, she was very willing. She was a very willing victim, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she's still a 15-year-old girl. You know, at the end of the day, she was 15. You know, and in this country, if that was to happen, you know, the person that she was married off to would be in prison, obviously.
Okay, well, let's say, Michael. Let's say, Michael, all right.
A victim.
Let's say, Michael, she comes back to this country, right? So she comes back to this country with her young son. She is still a committed supporter of ISIS and its ideology. She says she wasn't even fazed by seeing the severed heads of opposition fighters in bins in Raqqa. So she comes back, brutalised in that way, and lives in our society freely. Are you happy with that?
Well, she's obviously been brainwashed. But that doesn't excuse the fact that she's a victim. She's been brainwashed, and you know, she needs help. You know, and the child needs help. At the end of the day, she was a British citizen who has been brainwashed into that ideology and brainwashed into that way of thinking. She was a 15-year-old girl who was, you know, for whatever reason, whatever she's read online, whatever has happened in her youth has made her think that this is a good idea to go out.
But Michael, if you'd left this country in 1940 to fight for the Nazis, you wouldn't have been welcomed back into this country and given help and perhaps a council house. You'd have been treated as a traitor.
Well, yeah, but then I don't think that's comparing. I don't think that's comparing like for like.
Well, I do.
At the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I do. We're at war with ISIS, Michael. We are at war with ISIS and their ideology, aren't we?
Yeah, but we're talking about a child here. That's the point. We're talking about a child. You know, a child was influenced in this way. A child was, groomed. You know, for want of a better word. You know, we talk about all the paedophile rings in this country, grooming 15-year-old girls, and there's uproar, as rightly there should be.
Michael, I do understand.
15-year-old girl?
I do understand the point you're making, and I've let you make it. Let me just ask you, if she does come back to this country, do you think she poses a threat to our national security?
Well, you're never going to find out unless the police are able to talk to her and find out what she knows, what she understands.
Do you know what? Do you know what, Michael? I don't want to take the chance, but hey, you've made the point and made it powerfully. Nigel, the same people and politicians who are claiming this girl was only 15 years old and wasn't old enough to know what she was doing are exactly the same people who are saying that 16-year-olds should be able to vote in elections, especially a second European referendum. Yep, I've got that point loud and clear. Nashad is a new caller from Woodbridge. Good evening, Nashad.
Evening, Nigel. I'm a great fan of you.
Well, thank you very much and welcome to the show. So, should she be allowed to come back and live in the streets of Woodbridge or wherever she chooses?
No, what I want to say, basically, the Home Office has made it even easier for her to be allowed back in, because as soon as she goes into the Human Rights Court, she'd be allowed in because she hasn't got any other citizenship.
Yep.
So I think it's a point scoring from the Home Office Secretary Sajid Javid. Obviously, he wants to become the next Tory candidate for the Prime Minister. So she'd be allowed back, but I want her to be put into prison for the rest of her life, because I want to be quite free to be part of a society where she's been allowed free, and I'm a Muslim, so I could say that, you know, I would never be quite comfortable if I knew she was my neighbour.
Well, it's really interesting, Nashad, isn't it? Because I've been wondering about this. You know, what would the majority of peaceful, integrated Muslims living in the United Kingdom think about her coming back to live here? I can't believe they'd be in favour of it.
We don't welcome her to be back, to be honest with you. I think the Home Office has made a gaffe of, like, just to be in news, the Home Secretary has decided, okay, I'm going to just take her citizenship off without having the concern that she hasn't got any other citizenship.
Yeah, but that was when he thought she had Bangladeshi citizenship, and they're saying they won't take her, and he's now gone rather quiet, hasn't he?
But now, because they have made the decision, her lawyer would go to the higher court, probably the Supreme Court, and they would fight the case. And based on the fact that she hasn't got any other citizenship, she would be allowed back in. But my concern is because she hasn't got no remorse of the bombing or what she has done,
None.
And as a Muslim, I find that very awkward,
No, great call, Nashad. Great call. You've made the point beautifully, and I thank you for that. Important. Ben from Sevenoaks, there's another new caller. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening. I just want to start off. I've got a couple of points on this, but just the first off, you were talking earlier about the Nazis, and I just don't think that's a great point to start off with. Oswald Mosley was a Nazi and was rightly in prison, but, didn't get his citizenship revoked.
Because he didn't go and fight for them. What I'm saying is, Nashad,
no, he didn't go and fight for them, but he was, I think in this point, personally, I can see, and I think the comments that she made with regard to the Manchester City attack, I can understand completely why Sajid Javid did what he did, even from political perspective, but I think still, if she can come back and prove that she's completely changed her perspective on these things, then I think she should be given the chance to at least atone herself. I don't know whether she would, given her comments.
Well, Ben, I think Sky News and I think the Times newspaper gave her every opportunity in long interviews to show some remorse, to show some repentance, and she didn't show any, Ben.
But okay, that's fair enough. If that's the, newspaper publications want to post that, that's fine. I still think there should be a procedure in place. I don't agree with what you could argue. ISIS is the product of American, British invasions, whatever. But the fundamental aspect of the violence that some of the people have done, I do not agree with whatever.
No,
but
sure.
But the principle that she should have the right, even just to go in front of us, regardless from all these newspaper headings, she should have the process the same as anybody else. And then,
well, I tell you what, Ben. If we're going to do that, let's do it in Syria. I'm out of time. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show. It's 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
A 16-year-old boy has been found guilty of the abduction, rape and murder of a 6-year-old girl following a 9-day trial at Glasgow's High Court. Alicia MacPhail disappeared while she was on holiday on the Isle of Bute last July. Her body was found in woodland hours after she was reported missing. The mother of a 3-year-old boy believed to have been crushed by a car seat has been found guilty of child cruelty. Adrian Hoare allegedly failed to prevent her boyfriend from squashing Alfie Lamb in a footwell of the vehicle during a shopping trip in South London last February. The jury's been unable to decide whether 25-year-old Stephen Waterson is guilty of Alfie's manslaughter. Jeremy Corbyn's criticised the decision to strip Shamima Begum of her British citizenship. The Labour leader says the teenager from East London who went to join the Islamic State group in 2015 should be allowed to return to the UK to face questioning. He's called the Home Secretary Sajid Javid's decision very extreme. LBC weather: cloudy, wet and windy across western Scotland and Northern Ireland through tonight. Drier though for much of England and Wales, a low of 5 degrees.
LBC at the weekend. Matt Fry.
One of the really fascinating things for me about Brexit is the way that the issue of Europe has cut across the Labour Party. What happens to those Labour voters who voted for Labour but also voted for Brexit? What about all those young people who turned out in their tens of thousands for that pro-second referendum? What happens to them? Will they abandon Labour?
Leading Britain's conversation. Matt Fry. Saturday mornings from 10 on LBC.
Little Red Riding Hood has been trying to sell her grandma's home for some time now, but the estate agent's shining, sharp teeth have left her with sweat on her brow.
Trust me, darling, I just want what's best for you, hence the added fees.
However, she spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who cut out the middleman and guaranteed a sale in as little as 48 hours with no fees whatsoever. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
Life is full of so many things. Happy things, sad things, and surprising things. You've got commuting things, typing things, planning things. With all these things, it's easy to forget you need to eat something. So open the Uber Eats app to order a sushi thing, a burger thing, or perhaps that new thing. Sit for a minute and enjoy that thing. and then get back to all your other things. Uber Eats. Get food delivered wherever life takes you. Download the app today. Available at selected times in selected locations.
Most radio adverts begin in a pristine recording studio. But not this one. We're recording on the streets of central London, polluted by toxic air. Because there's no better place to tell you that the Central London ultra-low emission zone is coming on the 8th of April this year. It will apply 24 hours a day, every day of the year, in the same area as the congestion charge zone. Unless your car, motorbike or smaller van meets the new stricter emission standards, you will have to pay the £12.50 daily charge. Search ULEZ to check your vehicle and see if you need to pay. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
Talk me through the Vonage phone system Entourage. Mr. Fixer?
Seamlessly flips your call from your desk phone to your mobile.
Mr. Intel?
Shares complete visibility on all your calls and costs.
Miss Deals?
Pulls together Salesforce data when customers call.
Nice guy techie?
Gives you 24/7 support.
And you, Miss Money?
Offer you a business-ready phone system at a surprisingly low cost.
Okay, let's do this.
Make Vonage part of your entourage. To find out more, go to vonage.co.uk. Terms apply.
Vonage. Sounds like good business to me.
At Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, we know that when you've got your own business, there are all manner of things that keep you up at night. Do we need to cut our prices? What if my rent goes up? How can I afford the initial payment for a new van? Well, that's one thing you can cross off the worry list, because you can now pick up a new Volkswagen Transporter with no upfront payment. The Volkswagen Transporter, from £269 a month and absolutely nothing to pay up front on contract hire. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Incredible offers to help your business thrive. Working with you. Business users only, excluding VAT at 20%, over 48 months, no initial rental. T's and C's apply. No ownership until the 31st of March 2019. Volkswagen Finance.
How refreshing is it to know that when you're thinking about remortgaging, you can find out if you could borrow what you need straight away without affecting your credit score? That's why at Barclays, we'll let you know with an online agreement in principle from the comfort of your own home. We're refreshing and reshaping the way we do mortgages to make them easier. Search Barclays Mortgages. Let's go forward. T's and C's apply.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from New York, only on LBC.
Well, as both Britain and America discuss returning jihadi brides and whether they should be allowed to come back into our countries, there's a lot happening in Brussels. Mrs May, of course, was there yesterday, meeting Juncker, meeting Barnier. Today, Jeremy Corbyn is there in Brussels. And Jean-Claude Juncker has said overnight that he's not very optimistic about preventing the UK from crashing out of the European Union next month. He says a no-deal Brexit would give terrible economic and social consequences. And believe you me, they are absolutely desperate for Mrs May's deal in the end to get final approval, and yet they're not going to give her very much on the backstop. I'll tell you what Brussels really wants. What it really wants is us not to leave on the 29th of March, for this to be extended by a year, because they think, well, I tell you what, once the Brits have extended membership once by a year, they will do it again and again and again. So Brussels giving nothing. They may talk about their fear of a no-deal Brexit, and it would have disastrous effects for them, but they know that actually a third of the cabinet wouldn't allow it. This will go right down to the wire, in my opinion. And the last two nights we talked about this new independent group, and a very common word that came up through your messages and through the debate was that of hypocrisy, given that all of these people from both Labour and Tory parties were elected on very clear manifestos in 2017 that their parties wanted to honour the referendum result. And of course this has all been denied during all their press conferences. Well, let's just focus in, shall we, on what Heidi Allen had to say yesterday. Listen to this.
We haven't changed. What we stood on our values, our own leaflets, our own campaigning when we stood in 2017, none of that has changed.
Right, so nothing's changed. Heidi Allen has always been supporting a second referendum. Really? Well, I tell you what, let's listen to Heidi Allen speaking in the 2017 general election campaign.
This is democracy. We might not all like the result. I was a Remainer. But the minute we start ignoring the democratic will of the people in this country, we are slipping very quickly towards the kind of banana republic I don't want to live in. So quite frankly, if I'm re-elected as your MP, I am not going to waste time, precious time, resisting Brexit from happening. I'm going to grasp that opportunity, leverage that opportunity we have with every fibre in my being and make the best of it.
Well, in polite society, you'd call her a hypocrite. In less so, you might call her an outright liar. Take your pick. Right, let's get back to this issue. Is Corbyn right when he says Shamima Begum should be allowed back into Britain and that she needs some help, as if she's actually more of a victim than she is a threat? Vicky says to me on Facebook she should be allowed back in as she's not committed a crime, and to persecute her for others' actions is wrong. However, as a mother, would I want my child raised where everyone hates me and will blame my son for his father's actions? I would follow our laws and place her on a watch list and fingerprint both people in case of future issues. Everyone makes mistakes. Vicky, everyone does make mistakes. I don't want her to make another mistake, and to make it when she's living in this country. And the point I think many of you seem to be missing about this is ISIS are the enemy. They're an enemy of this country, an enemy of our values. She chose to join them, and she still supports their ideology. There is absolutely no contrition from Shamima Begum whatsoever. Michelle says, how can it be that 400 jihadis were let back in and this young girl is not? Double standards that smacks of sexism. Well, I don't agree with that, Michelle, but I do think the real double standard was that we were quite happy to kill British jihadis in Syria using drone strikes, and yet the next day, when they come back to Britain, 40 have been arrested, the rest are free to walk the streets. That's been the double standard. Hayley says, was your first caller tonight, Marie, actually talking about the girl who said that the Manchester Arena bombing was justified? Seriously, Marie, she's a threat, and there's no way I want to pay my taxes for her. And Hayley, I believe that is the majority opinion in this country. Let's go to Crawley and speak to Dan, who's a new caller. Good evening, Dan.
Hi, Nigel. Just want to say you're an absolute legend, first of all. Second of all, as well, just really want to say that Jeremy Corbyn's comments on the Home Secretary's decision being extreme, well, you could argue at the same point, Nigel, that a 15-year-old girl or, someone from any age going to a war zone would be quite extreme. And it wasn't like she got to Turkey either, and said, oh, it's not for me. She did cross the border, and she's been there 4 years as well. And also as well, if a 15-year-old or even let's go lower, 13-year-old, if they were to commit murder in a senseless act or something they regretted much later, would she? would they be, tested the same? They wouldn't. They would be thrown up in, an adult prison, and it would be deemed as an adult, really, wouldn't it? So it's very similar. And to be honest, I mean, my fiancée is Muslim, and she does not agree with this at all.
I bet.
Ever. So it's got nothing to do with. Well, in my view, it's got nothing to do with her being on the same religion, but it's her being, in a sense of a danger to this country. And what happens if, she brings her child, the child then is radicalised in this country again, and then the child actually grows up much later and commits an act of terrorism. What happens then?
So it's all not worth the risk, Dan, in your opinion?
No way. It's not worth the risk at all. We've taken too many risks. This country, has done before, and I think we need to learn from them. Something that, to be honest, left, right or centre, all my friend group have been quite behind the fact of her not coming back, really.
No, Dan, thank you for that, and I rather agree with you. I think that is the big majority view. Thank you. And Corbyn, I really think he's in trouble politically anyway. But why is it he always seems to sympathise, You know, he sympathises with the IRA, he sympathises with all sorts of Palestinian terror groups, and now he sympathises with somebody who is still committed to the ISIS ideology. I don't get it. Caroline in Hants says she and her husband with their baby would not be wishing to leave Syria if ISIS had not lost and been driven from the last bastion of land that they held with Syria. Well, I think that's probably absolutely right. We are back to Belfast again to speak to Paul. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Nigel. Nice to speak to you again. I spoke to you once before.
I remember.
About Brexit. Yeah, I'm sure you do, yeah.
I do, very much so. So come on, Paul, tell me. Tell me I've got this all wrong, Paul.
No, I'm not going to tell you that at all, Nigel, because everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, you're entitled to yours. You're an intelligent man. I mean, you know, clearly you're a very intelligent man. I'm not saying that to sort of bump your ego, and you know, you clearly are. But
that's very sweet of you, Paul.
Yeah, the bottom line is that this is a 15-year-old girl who was probably more than likely raised in a very sheltered environment. I mean, can you imagine the sort of upbringing she had until she reached the age of 15 within that household, if it was a household that was very sort of ultra-religious or ultra-fundamentalist, whatever. And then at that stage, she then gets bumped at the age of 15, bumped straight into a war zone. And for 4 years, over that course of 4 years, she has 3 children, 2 of which die, and 1 of which is still alive, thankfully. And within 3 days of that child being born, she's being interviewed by the Times. And that's the point. I did originally ring up to make some other points, but I'm just going to make this point. So the Times interviewed her within a few days of the birth of a child, her third child, the surviving child, 2 of which previously had died. How could she honestly have been giving any reasonable measured response in a situation like that? It just isn't feasible. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, this was Paul, her lawyer.
Yeah.
Her lawyer, of course, compared her to a World War I shell shock victim, didn't he?
He needs to be sacked. And I know you're a father. I'm a father myself. I know you're a father. You have 4 children, two previous and 2 currently. Think about your own situation. If you had a 15-year-old daughter who'd been through, who you had imagine you had no contact. They were brought up in a very sheltered environment, very cosseted environment where they were being fed certain ideologies, and at the age of 15 they were then again even further radicalised. And over that 4-year period, they had 3 children, 2 of which died, 1 of which survived. How on earth could that person at the age of 19 be anything other than shell-shocked? She's more than likely suffering from PTSD. She's more than likely suffering from some sort of mental health
all of that
problem.
may be true. All of that may be true. But look at the American case. The 24-year-old American jihadi bride, she is at least repentant of what she's said and done. Shamima Begum is not. Paul, do you think if she does come back, do you think she's potentially a danger to this country?
You said it yourself, Nigel. The 24-year-old that you said is now repentant. Yeah. How do you know that she's not going to be repentant by the time she reaches 24 years of age? That's 5 years away.
Well, it's possible, but at the moment she's not. Paul, we'll call it quits there. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:46, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
A teenage boy has been found guilty of the abduction, rape and murder of 6-year-old Alicia McPhail on the Isle of Bute last July. The mother of a 3-year-old boy believed to have been crushed by a car seat on a journey in South London has been found guilty of child cruelty. Jeremy Corbyn says the Home Secretary's decision to remove the UK citizenship of a teenager from East London who now wants to come home after joining the Islamic State group is extreme. LBC weather: cloudy, wet and windy across Western Scotland and Northern Ireland through tonight, drier elsewhere, a low of 5 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are queues on the M25 clockwise. 2 lanes are closed because of an accident from junction 29 for Romford to junction 30 for Lakeside. It's slow on the M4 going into town after an accident earlier at junction 2 for Brentford. All the lanes are back open there. There are delays in Barnes. The South Circular stays closed in both directions between Priest's Bridge and Priory Lane because of an accident. It's very slow in Hounslow. The A4 Great West Road westbound is closed because of an accident from Sutton Lane to Vicarage Farm Road. There are queues in Earls Court because of football fans heading to Stamford Bridge. There's a large group moving down Earls Court Road going southbound. And on the Underground, a signal failure at Tower Hill means there's no Circle Line anti-clockwise.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
At 9, the head of Ofsted has backed the teaching of same-sex relationships in primary schools. Is she right? But first, the LBC News Hour.
Ian Dale on LBC. LBC will be spending next week looking into the steps being taken to tackle cancer in Britain. Working with Cancer Research UK, the week will bring together scientists and supporters. We'll be examining the survival rates, groundbreaking treatments, and the impact gifts left in wills can have. Time will also be taken to talk to the passionate people that have pledged to support the charity. For information on the work being carried out by Cancer Research UK and how you can pledge to beat cancer for future generations, search CRUK Legacies.
It's Flavour of Italy week at Lidl, so we've partnered with Jet2 Holidays to give you the chance to win a family holiday to Sorrento. So your shopping trip might go from this to this. Grazie. Lidl. Big on quality, little on price. See lidl.co.uk/jet2holidays for details. T's and C's apply.
Oh, hi, Sophie.
Hi.
Thanks for picking up Josh after rugby practice.
No worries.
You couldn't collect him and Ollie from paintballing tomorrow, could you?
Sure.
And perhaps a school camping trip Sunday?
Okay. Is your car in the garage?
No, but I've just had it valeted and I don't want him dirtying my cream leather seats.
Real life isn't perfect, but the Vauxhall Crossland X is perfect for real life. Crossland X. Less raw. Get real. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903.
Thanks to people giving monthly donations, Cancer Research UK are funding thousands of life-saving research projects, so people like Alim can get back to enjoying family bike rides, birthdays, and games of football. As a dad, I understand just how precious those moments are. So, on behalf of all the families that have been helped, thank you. Thank you. See the impact of monthly donations by searching Cancer Research UK because of you. Together, we will beat cancer.
Apparently, there are still some people who say they won't apply for an Ocean credit card. That's amazing, because there's a credit limit of up to £1,500. Text so you keep control of your spending, and you can see if you'll be accepted before you apply at ocean.co.uk without affecting your credit rating. But I know the real reason people say they won't apply, because they've already got one. To apply for an Ocean credit card, go to ocean.co.uk. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender. 39.9% APR representative variable.
Right, kids, this is how you ski.
You shouldn't have to choose between a new boiler and the things you love this winter. We're with you. That's why all our new boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit, nothing to pay up front, and a 5-year British Gas warranty. So you can keep your savings for some skiing lessons.
You okay, Dad?
Book a quote by the 28th of February, and once we've installed your boiler, we'll give you a £150 gift card to treat yourself. Search British Gas New Boiler. Credit subject to status, conditions apply.
If you or your loved one has mild Alzheimer's disease, St Pancras Clinical Research in London would like to hear from you. We're looking for people aged 50 plus with mild Alzheimer's to take part in a new clinical research study. All volunteers will be paid for their time and reasonable expenses. To find out more about the study and apply, visit stpancrasclinicalresearch.com. That's stpancrasclinicalresearch.com.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show, live from New York. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag FarageOnLBC.
I think Jeremy Corbyn has put himself against a large majority of public opinion when he says that 19-year-old Shamima Begum should come back to this country and that she needs help. Before I get back to your thoughts on that, try this one for size. So the 2020 mayoral election contest in London is going to be counted by a new company and they're going to charge a fee of £8.9 million to do the job, which is double what it cost last time. And the contract has been awarded to a firm called Smartmatic. And the CEO of Smartmatic is Lord Malloch Brown, who just happens to be the head of the anti-Brexit group Best for Britain, just happens to be a very close associate of George Soros's, and the real cherry on the top for this one is the firm is Venezuelan-owned and has overseen the country's elections there for several years. Indeed, in 2017, it was forced to admit that the turnout had been tampered with. I mean, you couldn't make this up, could you? At a time when Sadiq Khan keeps saying that London is short of money, they're prepared to pay double what they paid last time to have the thing counted by a firm run by one of the biggest Remainers in this country. Nice work, if you can get it, I suppose. Let's go back to your calls on this subject. I'm going to go to Lisa in Docklands, who is a new caller to this show. Lisa, good evening to you.
Hi, Nigel.
Hi there. So, should she be allowed to come back in this country, and is she a victim that needs help?
No, she's not a victim, and I'd say leave her where she is. She's obviously a national security risk, and to be honest, she's probably safer in Syria than what she would be if she come back to London.
Well, there is an issue with that, Lisa, and a former senior policeman said at the weekend that, you know, it would be very difficult for her to live like a normal life, even if she wanted to, back in this country.
And we would have to pay for that as well. So leave her where she is. She wasn't a child when she was chatting to ISIS members in this country, when she showed interest in a terror organisation and decided that she would contact them and maybe have a little chat before she went. And she keeps
was
throwing
15,
around the
Lisa.
word brainwashing.
She was 15, Lisa, at that time.
She was. Yeah, she was. When I was 15, I wouldn't have jumped on a plane and gone off to Syria. So she didn't act like a 15-year-old. Most 15-year-olds, I can remember I was going to run away from home one day. Got to the end of the road. I was too frightened that my dad would tell me off, so I went straight back. What she did, she carried out exactly what she meant to do. She knew what she was going there for. She knew she was going there for a man. She knew she was going there to wash pots and have babies, and that's exactly what she did. She only wants to come back now because he has handed himself in and her mates are dead, probably.
Well, yeah,
So
because
now
ISIS
she's
has
on
been
her
beaten.
own, wants to come back.
No, I agree with that. Lisa, are there any circumstances? I mean, let's just say that rather than attempting to justify that appalling murder scene in Manchester, that she showed some remorse and gave some apology. Perhaps in those circumstances, would it be justified for her to come back?
Oh, no, I don't think there is. I don't think, men died in this country to free this country and make it what it was. You can't allow people who have been, now live in this country, and I think she should be made an example of. Use it as a warning. This is what you do and this is what you're going to get.
Lisa, you've said it very clearly. Thank you very much indeed. And Tom from Basingstoke says, this jihadi bride only wants to come back because ISIS are losing the war. Yes, Tom, that is absolutely right. If the family of Shamima Begum fight the decision made by the Home Secretary, who is going to pay for all the protracted legal proceedings? Is that going to be paid for by beleaguered British taxpayers, asks Peter Smith. Peter, I don't know the answer, but I think I probably do know the answer, and I suspect that you are right. I'm going down to Shaftesbury in Dorset to speak to Louise. Good evening, Louise.
Hi, Nigel. Right, I've got to stick my neck out here because
Go on.
I can't actually. This is like watching a lynch mob. For instance, this girl there's been a lot of media coverage saying that she's not sorry. Well, hang on a moment. She's sat in the middle of a Syrian camp. She's probably surrounded by a lot of very dangerous people. Do any of us really expect she's going to say, while she's in that position, that she's sorry? Do we really expect her to say that while she's in that middle of that Syrian camp? So that's my first point.
Okay.
So I wasn't personally expecting her to say, I wish I hadn't come out here. I hate it here. I hate everyone I'm surrounded by, because she's in the middle of a camp. So that's one. A second problem I've got with the behaviour of, of the United Kingdom is actually we're supposed to be a Christian country. And I don't think we're behaving like a Christian country. So
Louise, Christian forgiveness comes for those who first repent of their sins. That is the whole essence of Christian forgiveness. And I'm all for Christian forgiveness, Louise. I really am. And I do understand your point that she is there in a camp surrounded by many other people, from that ideology. But I think she went so far in the interviews, way further than she needed to go. She didn't need to say things like, I wasn't fazed by seeing severed heads in bins. She volunteered it.
She's really clearly very naive. And actually, there's also another thing that a lot of people don't understand, and that's the behaviour. That's when children are brought up inside a very strict religion, she has been brought up. She has been brought up to believe what she believes. I listened to some of the interviews that she did, and she said, I came out here to live by Sharia law. Now, we haven't actually addressed the gap between the Islamic communities in this country and the British and the English communities. When a lot of Islamic people came to this country many decades ago, we were a very strong Christian country. And when we were a strong Christian country, whether we agree with whatever, we had a much stronger moral code of living in this country. And I don't want to get into what's illegal now and what was illegal then. It was easier for Islamic communities to fit into this country back then. And actually, as the decades have gone, that's actually changed.
Well,
so there's a huge gap.
You're right. I mean, Louise, you are right. There have been huge social changes in Britain in terms of gay rights, in terms of attitudes towards women, and that has led to a clash in some cases between existing communities, indeed, and some of those Islamic communities, but not all of them. Louise, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I am going to be back on Sunday morning in London at 10 o'clock. But for now, I'm handing over to Ian Dale.
I listen to you when I go and get my Sunday papers, Nigel.
Oh, thank you, Ian.
Just thought you'd like to know that.